Alright you guys, so welcome back to another episode. This is my D16A. This is imported from Japan. I picked it up from one of those local importers, and I'm really excited about this engine. I know most of you is like, oh, it's a D series, but this thing is really clean on the inside, man, and I'm really excited about that. So what we're gonna start on here is stripping down this D16A. And what I mean by that is like all this stuff I'm not gonna be using. So this heat shielding, the exhaust manifold behind it, this automatic transmission plate here, the intake manifold, all this here is gonna go. I'm gonna be reusing my Z6 intake manifold that was on my Y8. And then of course this bracket here, no way can I use that. I need to go ahead and change that out to the 2 posts that I have, the smaller. So we're gonna go ahead and take everything off that I don't need, and then I wanna be showing you guys some cool parts that I've got. Oh my God, look at that little manifold. Look at that thing, dude. It's so skinny. Look at those little runners. Oh my goodness. This is what I'll be putting back on the car. Not like it's that awesome, but yeah, it definitely lets the exhaust gases get out easier. Alright, exhaust manifold off. Let's go ahead and get this power steering out. Power steering, exhaust manifold off. I'm gonna go ahead and take this little water pipe off here. You see that one doesn't have the bleeder nipple that this one has, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use that again. So again, this engine is OBD2, so this alternator won't work for me. I could use the adapter and everything, but I've already got an OBD1 alternator sitting off that guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this bracket, and look at how this bracket is from the JDM version of this engine. It goes all the way up into here and these 2 wide posts. From what I've actually heard, this engine came out of an HRV, the first generation of the HRV. And so these engines were actually made into 2003. But so that may explain this wider post right here, and then also the way this kind of snorkel intake is up here. this intake manifold nut up here is crazy to get to. And I can get my open-ended wrench on it, but it's hard to get the hammer in to hit it. So, hello. It's so awesome. That broke it free really good. This is the handle off of my new jack stand. That's hilarious. Oh, that works so good. Look at that mess you gotta try to get through to get them intake manifold nuts. But that worked. Dude, if you don't have one of these poles, you've got to get one, man. Like, as a breaker arm, it is just amazing. This intake manifold nut that's on the bottom right here, the one that's really hard to get to, again, this thing comes in handy. It broke that nut free so easy. All right, intake manifold is off. Here's everything on the ground. Wiring harness pretty much came with it. One thing that I did notice right away is this water pipe here is different than the one I have on my Y8 there. It had some sort of water channel here that went over to, it had a different water channel here that went over to this guy. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Maybe that's the IACV, I don't know. Because this intake manifold is totally different than the setup I have here. So yeah, what I think I'm going to be doing is actually getting rid of this water pipe as well, because I don't want to have to block that passageway off. I'm going to use the one that came off of this car where it doesn't have that passageway back there, and I'll just make sure to get new O-rings for each side. After removing this 10 mil and that 10 mil there too, I'm going to go ahead and remove this box. There we go. And I think I'll probably end up using that guy over there again too. Water pipe out. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and replace those O-rings, and I'm going to be doing the timing belt and water pump anyway. So I still, of course, have to take all that stuff off and get to that bracket. But yeah, overall, looking pretty good. We got some rain going on outside. Sorry if you hear that in the background, but check it out. These are the new parts I was telling you about. Not super, crazy stuff, but man, I am so looking forward to installing these things. First off, Hasport mounts. Who doesn't like Hasport? These mounts, I think, are going to seriously help any wheel hopping I was doing, and to just hold my engine in place. What I was using before were these old crusty mounts, and look at how gross that thing is. And this mount right back here, this thing wiggles like crazy, man. So having these new mounts in place, man, it's going to keep my engine still, and any power transferring down to the axles and everything, it's just going to be better. It's going to keep everything in place. And these are the U70A rubber mounts inside of each. Man, I'm really looking forward to putting that in the bay, just to also make it look so much cooler than what it does. So then this guy right here, this is essentially an eBay oil cooler. Adds a little bit more capacity, but this is claimed to keep engine oil temperatures about 50 degrees cooler when you're on track full throttle all the time. And then these two little lines right here, this is the ground wires for the valve cover to the frame, and then the transmission to the frame. Really nice thick cables. Man, just so much of an improvement over the stock stuff. And then finally right here, just because I want some nice new stuff in there to go along with my new mounts and everything, I got a whole bunch of Honda bolts, brand new bolts and brand new pieces to go and make everything look a little bit nicer. If you look at my old bracket here from my alternator, man, that thing is disgusting. And this lower bolt here is totally stripped and has been giving me trouble. So once I get that thing off, I've got a new bracket here to replace that with. I'm going to go ahead and exchange this for a refurbished OBD1 alternator. Really, really nice. And then of course I have the bolts to match it and go with it. Everything is just going to be as freshened up as possible. And as you all know, turning new bolts is so much easier than trying to deal with old and stripped out ones. And not only is it this oil cooler on here, I know a lot of you are probably like, oh, but that's going to make the oil pump work harder, and these Y-series pumps are known to be bad in the first place. I totally agree. So what we've done is got a brand new Yamada Honda oil pump coming. It has been ported or shimmed, however you want to call it, to essentially have a whole lot better flow. So that's going to really work in conjunction with this oil line, because this right here, this whole system adds about another quart of oil. The oil cooler can definitely make the pump work harder, but again, we have that ported, shimmed, whatever you want to call it, brand new oil pump coming. And man, I'm just so looking forward to hopefully getting some reliability out of this. Keeping the oil temps cooler should help keep the pressure more regular, so I've been told. The oil isn't going to thin out or change viscosity when it gets too hot. So everything flowing through this engine should be a nice steady temperature, and it will physically have more oil. So this upgraded oil pump is definitely going to help move everything around and keep my engine healthy. And just so you know, this isn't some crazy concoction that I have just come up with here. Travis and I have been talking to Patrick. You guys would definitely know him through a brand called M Factory. Travis got all those awesome parts for his transmission through those guys. And Patrick has been a huge help in guiding us on this new route here. And, if you're watching this, Patrick, sincerely thank you, man. He has been so receptive of our messages and our questions, and he always responds and is very thorough in his response. So thank you, Patrick. You all definitely check out M Factory. You know they have super quality products. But so anyway, Patrick is a part of a really awesome series called the Civic Racing Series. And what do they race? D-series engines, Y7s, Y8s. Patrick himself has had a Y7 that he has run for a long time, and it's been super reliable and everything, and that's all thanks to keeping engine temperatures cooler, and for him having gone through and done the proper steps to keep these engines healthy when you're revving them super high all the time and just putting them under a ton of abuse. So Patrick, thank you so much for talking with us, and he has guided us. This oil cooler right here is the exact one that he uses, and they have tried these things and tested them for years now, and he's super happy with it, and so that's good enough for me. I'm happy with it. Freshly painted bay, brand new mount. Oh, that's going to look so good in there. And this part right here, this is actually two different pieces. They're just screwed together right now. But what's going to be really cool about this oil cooler is it's also an oil filter relocation kit. So, instead of the oil filter hanging off the back of the block like it normally does, one of these pieces goes in the back there, the lines come out, go to the oil cooler, and then of course run around. You can actually mount the oil filter relocator kit like right here, and so you can have the filter facing down, kind of like new cars do. And then the oil cooler itself will sit up in here somewhere, but I have yet to figure that out, and of course we'll do a whole episode on that.